All right. So for my final project, I decided to do an American Indian art piece as my indigenous expressive culture. So that is that. So my art piece I chose is here on the right screen, as you can see. The art piece is called Soldiers and was made in 1970. It was located at the National Museum American Indian in New York City. The art shows a depiction of Native American identity and stereotypes. And basically, I chose this art piece because as I was looking through different art pieces and other things, I saw something super interesting about who made this art piece and a connection between somebody that we've already studied in the art unit and during this semester. So that had a huge impact and why I chose this art piece. Besides that, I just thought it was super cool. So the artist of the art piece is T.C. Cannon. His full name is Tommy Wayne Cannon. Uh, I've seen a lot of people call him TC Cannon, so that's why I put that first instead of his actual full name. He was born in 1946 and died in 1978. He was only 31 years old due to a car accident, which really sucks. But anyway, Cannon grew up in Oklahoma and was an enrolled member of the Kiowa Indian tribe, but later enrolled in the Institute of American Indian Arts, IAIA, in Santa Fe. So he studied painting and graduated there with a recognizable name of Fritz Scholler. So that's the kind of connection that I made between TC Cannon and the art unit because we had already studied some of Fritz's art piece, which is I thought was super cool. So yeah, we already learned about that. Cannon went on to join the U.S. Army, where he served as a paratrooper in Vietnam for a year. He actually won a couple medals by doing that. After serving, Cannon and Shoulder broke open a piece of American Indian art by representing visual stereotypes about Native Americans, and it just created a whole new phase of art. So that was super cool to learn. The history of the piece, so here on the right is actually T.C. Cannon, so it was cool finding a picture of him. The piece was made possible when Cannon and soldiers started an expedition together, which was dedicated to represent stereotypical Native American imagery. The art represented stereotypical imagery with a large quantity of irony and lightheartedness. The soldiers' piece had a lot of irony and identity involved with Native Americans and Europeans that came to America. So, the context of this art piece. What I see when I look at this piece is obviously soldiers split in half, one half being a European settler and another a Native American. But in deeper meaning, I also just see two separate individuals represented as what should be one. Um, One who was trying to create a new opportunity, and another one who was trying to defend their land. However, Native Americans were never recognized as soldiers when European settlers were often referred to that, which was strange, which I thought was strange. And there was a lot of wrongful doing, and the piece is trying to tell the story of why each group of people did what they did. And it's just crazy how much context just as simple of an image as what I showed you guys has. So the function of the piece. So the irony behind the piece is that Native Americans were often referred as savages and who went after European settlers when they came to America. Instead, Native Americans really should have been known um, as soldiers because they were defending their own land and should therefore be referred as soldiers because they didn't want to go after the European settlers. They were doing what they had to do. They were defending their land and defending their family, and that's what soldiers do. So the piece is trying to show the true identity of Native Americans. The function of the piece is to change the stereotypes and cultural appropriation against American Indians today, and also just how they were represented back then. So they really should get the respect that they truly deserve, because it's not right for them to be called something that they weren't. And this image or this piece of art is really just trying to show that both individuals were soldiers, just for very different ways. So, and only one was able to be referred as one. So when I got to the theme connections, I found four really strong ones that I felt really stood out in this art piece. One of the first ones was obviously stereotypes. I've already kind of talked about the stereotypes, but basically just the difference of uh, Native Americans being referred as soldiers and or rather than savages. Um, all throughout this semester, we've heard of Native Americans being referred as savages because they would kill and blah, 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 blah. But really, they were soldiers, and they just did what they had to do to make sure that they were safe and their family was safe. And then culture appropriation, it just really shows how Native Americans are wrongfully represented a lot of the time. In this art piece, they are not. However, they are very represented well, known to be as soldiers. But all throughout the semester, like I said already, they were just wrongfully represented in any sort of way, whether it was the art unit, music unit, film unit, whatever. And then we have culture identity, and this kind of goes with culture appropriation. But the piece just really just gave us a true representation of Native Americans and who they truly were. Um, I've never really thought of Native Americans as soldiers, but I've also never thought of them as savages, obviously. But now after finding out about this piece and seeing it, I really am glad that they could be referred as soldiers, because that's what they were doing. And then resistance. Refused to let Europeans just take their land, and therefore became soldiers to defend it. I think that obviously that goes with the piece and the history of the piece, but also the resistance of PC Cannon making this piece, and just not letting the culture appropriation, the stereotypes keep going and going and going. He was trying to end that through his art. And the impact of the piece. This piece's impact let me understand our course themes just one more step higher. I thought I fully understood them before, but now I fully get why our course themes were chosen. Almost all the course themes were in every single piece of art, film, music, literature, and storytelling that we studied this semester. The piece of art I chose put the full effect on most of them to get me to understand completely. So I'm really glad that I found this piece, and here's my works cited.